Okay, what is this podcast about again?
It's a music podcast, but we don't talk about music.
This podcast is not about music, not about hobbies, not about snowboarding, skating, or artists. Not about people, not about parties, not about pop culture, games, or Ferraris. Not about movies, not about markets, not about aliens, it's real rockets. But it's a podcast, go down to podcast, that's we just have to wait and say.
I don't get it.
Welcome into the Not About Music podcast. As you can see, we switched up the branding here, which is something I've been meaning to do for a long time. When I first started the podcast, I did not, I hated the name The Just Josh Podcast. I don't like having my name in it. So from the very beginning, I've always wanted to change it. But because I had already started recording videos for the podcast, and I didn't want to hold on to them too long, I decided to just come up with a name and then worry about it later. Then we get to season 2, season 3, and nothing. Also, and this whole time I've been trying to think of something. And I wanted to really describe what the podcast was about. So, my view of this podcast from the beginning was always something where I bring my favorite artists on, I bring my friends on that I've met through the business, and we talk about their interests outside of music. We obviously still talk music, that's why the Not About Music, it's kind of tongue-in-cheek, because we do talk about music, but I like to get into other things and things I'm interested in. And I've always been someone that kind of has always been interested in a bunch of different things, and I love learning about new things. So I understand that people get in their niches and they have like their thing, but I've always loved music. I've always loved sports. I hated history in high school, but I love it now just because we have so much more information available to us. It wasn't just about Columbus and all that. And half the stuff we were taught, I feel like in middle school and high school was bullshit anyway. So I'm kind of mad about that. I wish I had grown up when we had kind of gotten past that. And I know they still teach that stuff in schools, which is really a disservice. Like, we need to stop teaching kids that like Columbus was this great guy. And, not saying that we need to do, I know that's the whole issue is that, people are saying, oh, we don't want to make white people look bad. But I'm not saying make white people look bad. What I'm saying is just tell kids the truth that, Columbus them weren't like the first people in America. There were other people before them. And as we know, people before them. So that's the whole thing. Well, maybe Indians have been there, but you know what I mean? Like Vikings and all that stuff had been, I think it's pretty well documented that they were here before us back in the day. But anyway, so another reason why I did not change the name sooner was through the podcast. I've met some great people. A lot of you already know one of my guilty pleasures is professional wrestling. I just love that it combines, the storytelling and the athleticism. There's really nothing else like it. And if you're a wrestling fan, minus the Attitude Era, I mean, right now is probably some of the best wrestling you're going to get as far as AEW and then everything going on with WWE and the back and forth and it's almost become like a real professional sport in the sense of like, wrestlers getting traded to different companies and different things happening. Through the podcast, though, I was lucky enough to have Chris and my friend Stephanie on, and they're both together, where he also solo had the Not About Wrestling podcast. And I was always so jealous because that's pretty much the name that would best describe my podcast, which is Not About Music. It's very tongue-in-cheek and very like, yeah, of course we talk music. We don't not talk music. And that's kind of what I thought was funny about it is that people are like, what? It makes you kind of question, like, what is the podcast about then? But obviously we talk about music and obviously, we'll get into promoting what the artist has coming out. But I love to get into things other than that too. So he had the name Not About Wrestling podcast. And, I really did not want to rip off of that. He had already had some success with Barstool and then kind of going independent. But his podcast would bring wrestlers on and they would talk about, things not about wrestling, I guess. So he was so kind and I reached out to him because it had been a while. And I wanted to get permission because honestly, if I couldn't change the name of something I liked, it was kind of getting to the point where I was ready to end the podcast because it is a lot of work when you're doing it yourself. You have to advance with the guests. You have to pay some of the guests. You have to edit the video. You have to do all that yourself. And if I had a team around me where I could just do the interview and prepare for the interview and then they took care of the rest production-wise, like right now I'm sitting here recording this myself. It's very hard. If there's a mistake or if a mic's not working, I'm not going to know. I mean, I can hear this. I know I would know, but we wouldn't be able to fix it on the fly. I'd have to stop the interview. So a lot of work goes into a podcast when you're doing it yourself. Even these people that do them themselves, you can pay people online to produce it live or even record it live and edit it for you and then send it back to you. And that's something I thought about doing. But to be honest with you, this isn't a moneymaker, obviously. So, again, all this is coming out of my own pocket. I would really love to find people that want to do their own podcast or have that entrepreneurial mindset, but really know business and get business. Pat McAfee, I always say with his thing, he quit football. He was getting paid millions of dollars. He was the prime of his career and he quit football, left the Indianapolis Colts so he could, pursue entertainment, and from that, he brought his boys along, and I would really love to bring my friends along if I had friends that understood that you kind of got to put it in the work first and then reap the rewards later. But, he said the same thing to his friends and his boys from growing up, and the people that had his back was, look, if you stick with me, if you suck it up for the first 4 years or so, we're barely going to get by, but I guarantee if we all just work at it, we can get somewhere. And I've always felt that way about myself. I've always felt if I really want to do something, I can make it happen. And again, I have so many different interests, getting to work in music, getting to work for now a sports apparel company, getting to do the things that mean a lot to me as far as I love working for bands and I loved being able to travel and do that. Now that I'm older, I love that I get to work for Under Armour and really pursue my passions as far as not only just sports, but clothing goes. So, being able to have my degrees to back that up and then, get to explore other options within the company. And I can't say enough nice things about Under Armour. I mean, they have a really good mentality and a really good environment and culture. And they're similar to like a Google, or Apple even. I don't know. Sometimes I hear weird things about Apple. Like it's not a great place to work, but I don't know. And I assume most companies are that way. It depends on your position and what you want to do, how you feel. Because I've had a lot of friends that worked at Under Armour and said they hated it. But they do a very good job of, having each department, the culture still, no matter where you are or what you're doing within the company, it stays the same. But, I get great benefits for very little. I know with this insurance, if I ever had a medical emergency, I would be able to take care of it. And that's kind of reassuring, especially these days. You never know, man. I'm starting to get older. Like, I'm not fat. I don't want to say that because I don't want to, offend anyone out there that is dealing with weight issues. But I'm not skinny either right now because, 2020, 2021, that kind of all blurred together. I wasn't expecting that second year, and 2021 flew by so fast. I'm definitely not going to let that happen with 2022. But, I've talked about it before. I just had my knee surgery, and then between all that stuff, I haven't been able to work out as much as I'd like to. And to be honest, at my age, I really don't care about looks. I really don't care about what I look like. I'm more interested in meeting and being around good people, and having that positive environment and friends so that, however long I have left on this planet, will be fun and will be stress free. I'm starting to lose my voice a little bit, so I'll probably cut this off. Today wasn't very interesting. It was not a very interesting intro, but it wasn't meant to be. I have Jimmie's Chicken Shack coming up next. I'm super excited about that. And man, these guys were so kind with their time. They called me in from the studio. If you wait till the end, you will get a sneak peek of a little bit of one of their songs that's coming out in the new album. Please go support them. These guys were I talk about it in the podcast, but I'll say it anyway. Their song "High" was one of the first songs I ever learned on guitar. And it's just a fucking killer song too. I mean, even to this day, it pumps when I hear it. I get pumped up. And so they were so gracious with their time and talked about a lot of things, talked about a lot of the artists I've had on and ones that I hope to get on soon from our local scene up here in Baltimore. And yeah, we have new branding. That's really what this whole intro was supposed to be about, and I rambled a lot, but that was fun. It's fine. I'm trying to get more when I'm doing these intros. I'm going to do them a little bit more relaxed and until I start having a co-host or something else. This is just going to be me. I hope you guys enjoy this and enjoy the new tune that they play at the end. And I couldn't have thought of a better way to start this podcast off with the new branding than getting Jimmie's Chicken Shack. Because I want to start getting more rock artists, punk artists, all genres. I don't care. I just want to get my favorites on here and get people that are deserving too. I think the first couple podcasts and the first season, really, maybe a little bit of the second season, but now a lot of these bands are blowing up anyway, were to get those smaller bands on because I think, why not? I don't know. I always root for the little guy. I always root for smaller bands. I know how tough the industry is, and I got a lot of respect for people that do it full time. It's not an easy job. Just to travel and all that stuff is very difficult for anyone, especially for their families. Like if you're married to or have a musician boyfriend, husband, family member, friend, whatever, cut them some slack. Cut them a little bit of slack, not too much. Got to keep them in check, but I get it. Anyway, so welcome to the new podcast, Not About Music podcast. It's not new. Same podcast, but new branding. And, I'm excited to kick off episode 58 with Jimmie's Chicken Shack. So enjoy the interview, and we'll see you next time. Thank you so much for coming on here. I'm a huge Jimmie's Chicken Shack fan, and the fact that we got both of you on here, too, from the studio. You guys are working on new music right now.
Yeah, we're working on the demos for the new record.
How's that going so far? I mean, it's been, I think I saw on your post maybe over 12 years or at least 10 years in the making of you guys putting a full-length album. Did this kind of come from you having more time over COVID and doing the couch concerts and getting inspired and stuff like that, saying, hey, I kind of got this groove going. Why don't we keep it going in the studio?
Yeah, I mean, it was weird because, we've been here and there getting together. It's Jerome's studio that we're in Baltimore, and we've been getting together for the past 10 years here and there trying to come up with new ideas, but I think I just wasn't in the place for it. And over the past year I decided there was nothing I could control except for myself, and so I started to get healthy, and then that changed how I feel and think and operate. And we were getting together and doing the live streams from here, and then we were just still working on ideas, but it really started to get to a place where we're like working on ideas consistently. And then it was like, well, let's just make a record. It feels like the right time. And then now we've been getting together at least once or twice a week, trying to work out stuff. And we're going to go work with Jim Wirt, who did Bring Your Own Stereo, and he did my Men the Hollow record. So we got 2 weeks in the studio, which we've never done that either, where we've actually just gone away and, lived in a studio basically.
Yeah. That's exciting, man. Well, without aging myself or all of us, I was born in the 80s. I grew up in the 90s. So, punk rock, 90s rock, even rap when in its heyday was huge for me. But locally, I loved Ballyhoo and I loved Good Charlotte before they went to MTV in LA. And I always thought, but my favorite band was by far Jimmie's Chicken Shack. And I remember I was probably 8 or 9 when I started learning guitar. And my dad would pay this amazing guitar teacher, God bless this guy, because I had ADHD. So not the best at concentrating, not the best at practicing my scales and chords. And my dad would pay this guy $100 an hour to come over. And instead of teaching me chords and stuff, I would make the guy teach me Jimmie's Chicken Shack songs or like Green Day songs and stuff like that.
Awesome.
So I always felt bad in that sense, but man, it was such a big part. And High was easily one of the first. I mean, I think my dad taught me like Wild Thing on the acoustic guitar, you know, a very simple song to start off with. And then I'm pretty sure because some of those chords are already in there, my guitar teacher taught me like When I Come Around and High. And that was, I don't know. I'm so excited to have you guys on because I just miss so much the 90s style of music and kind of just the authenticity of some of it. I know there was a lot of produced up stuff and we got into pop towards the late 90s, 2000s, but I always have a soft spot for like 94 to 98, you know, even 99.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
You said you were into Ballyhoo?
I'm
He
sorry?
produced the record.
Yeah, I did Doing It for the Money, and I also did Alcohol, and I did Front Porch, those 2 songs, and some other stuff that didn't make it to the record. Pretty awesome.
And how was working with those guys? They're so nice, aren't they?
I love how I used to play at the Rendezvous on hand drums. It was like a weekly gig, and it was pretty awesome back in the day because Donald he was like in a car accident at that time,
Mm-hmm.
and I was just filling in on hand drums, and I did that for a while, and it was pretty awesome. We talk all the time. And
Actually, we have we started working on a tune last week, and Jerome was like, we should get Howie to do a verse on this. And I was like, we should get Brandon from Bumpin' Uglies, and we get my buddy Tef Wesley to do a rap, and then Joey Harcum. So we're going to see if we can get all those guys to do a verse to this tune that we have that's kind of got this reggae soul feel. So it'll be fun.
That's awesome. I mean, we have such a great scene, don't we? I mean, no matter what genre, you got the Ballyhoo, Bumpin'. I was just at Joey's soundstage, and I know Bumpin' did a tour at the Wrecker. Dude, do you guys want to go back and play the Wrecker now that it's open back up?
Oh yeah, I think we have a tentative show there in November on the book. So hopefully we'll get there, you know, before the end of the year. So
That'd be awesome. A little bit more background for the people listening out there. Besides having one of your songs be one of the first songs I ever played, the first time I ever got to see you was, I believe it was 97 or 98. Now, I might have seen you at like an HF festival before that, but I'm pretty sure my first official time that I begged my dad. I was like, and the reason I begged him is it was, you guys opened up with Fuel for Creed over at Merriweather. And I remember hating Creed, not really wanting to go, but I was like, Dad, if you pay the $70 for this ticket, you know, I'll love you forever because I want to go see Jimmie's Chicken Shack. So we went and saw you. That's where I got my Jimmie's Chicken Shack t-shirt. I still have the stub somewhere. And I was ready to leave kind of after you guys, to be honest. And my dad was like, there's no way we're leaving right now. Like, let's stick around for Fuel. So I love Fuel. They were great, obviously. Great rock 90s band. But then we were forced to say, and then I was like, okay, so can we go now? And he was like, no. He's like, no, let's stick around and see if there are any. And I just remember being at that age. I was still only like 13 or 14. But I remember just knowing, like, you know, the kids can point out and notice things that adults don't all the time. Was he really like that, or was that an act?
You know, I think Scott, you know, they had a really quick rise. And so I think, you know, it tends to happen in the music industry sometimes if you're younger, or, you know, I don't know how long they had been playing before they got signed, but I think it's just kind of, he started to believe the myth a little bit. And so when that happens, people can be pretentious and they can be taken the wrong way. And, you know, you never know what other people are dealing with, what struggles they have. And so, you know, it's hard to judge anyone because it's such a bizarre existence. Mm-hmm. But I loved the guys, all the guys that ended up doing Alter Bridge, you know, all the original members. They're just great. And I went to Mark's house and he wrote a song with me that went on Represent's record. So, you know, we wrote a song called Strange that's on our Represent record. So, you know, I haven't seen any of those guys in a long time, but, you know, we always had fun, no matter who we played with.
Yeah, yeah. You guys seem like another band that reminds me of you and your positivity is of 311. And when I got to meet you at Fells Point Fest, we were talking about the 311 cruise when they had just started that.
Yeah.
And ever since, man, I'm telling you, every time they send out what's it called? The survey at the end of the cruise, what band would you like to see on the next 311 cruise? I always put Jimmie's Chicken Shack for all 3 spots.
Well, I mean, maybe it would happen at some point because they have a bunch of different bands and they tend to have bands that they played with before. So maybe that we're doing a new record will inspire them to go, yeah, you know what? Why not? Let's get these clowns out again.
I had to wear my 311 Baltimore Ravens jersey just because.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But do you remember when they got in a fight in Baltimore?
311 and Scott, I do, but
Scott
Stapp.
Stapp.
I remember the drama of it. Yeah, I thought it was. You know what I thought?
It's in a hotel.
It's
a hotel bar.
And I thought to myself, how can I start a fight with a band? Like I wanted to start drama just so we could get press. It was just such free press. It was like, I know it wasn't a stunt, but yeah, I remember when that happened. I thought it was kind of funny.
Like that was probably the peak.
Yeah.
Several times.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I heard.
Yeah,
I think it's funny when bands get silly.
I saw an interview with Scott Stapp recently. I think even he admitted, we all grow, we all change. I was super young back then.
Exactly what I was saying. Like it's hard to really make a judgment. You can't imagine the bizarrety that your life becomes, even with marginal success.
Mm-hmm.
They blew up to be the biggest band in the country at the moment. I mean, it was fast. The first time they played with us, they opened up for us at the House of Blues in New Orleans. And then within 6 months, they were huge. It was crazy how fast it happened. So, people, young men in their 20s do silly shit.
The High video.
The answer is yes.
Yeah, I remember making all of it. I remember everything.
I mean, that was such a...
Told me all the stories, and it's fantastic.
So the guys that did that video, they're local guys from Annapolis, Color Cast, and they made a movie on Trauma called Redneck Zombies, and they're just local friends and guys, and so they did a video for us before we got signed of High in a house I lived in, and we put a light inside of an old mic, and we just kind of did a live performance video. So when it came time and we got signed, it was like, well, we should do this and start with that concept. And then we had a barn in our backyard at the group band house I was living in, or group house we were living in. So I was like, well, we got to do part of this in the barn and then part of this at the 8x10 because that's our place. Like It was just our home. And I always, whenever I would send out promo kits, I would always put a couple feathers inside of the envelope because I figure, they get 1 million press kits at a club or a record label. But if this feather falls out, they're gonna be like, what the hell is this? And it'll spark a memory. It'll trigger something and they'll remember it because it's physical. So I was like, well, we got to have feathers. And we got a bunch of feathers from this chicken farm on the Eastern Shore of Maryland and just choked our guts out playing it in 8x10. But it's funny because people will still tell me, like radio station guys, or because we ended up, once we got put out our first record, they did the thing with the feathers because they loved that so much. The label did. And I still have people say, man, I remember opening that thing and a few feathers came out and I'm like, what the hell is this? And it was, it perfectly did what I needed it to do, So.
That's
Jimmie told me that the after the feathers, the surrounding, like they got sucked out of the HVAC and out to the surrounding.
Yeah,
buildings.
so all across street, 8x10 is in the middle of cross street and it's all row buildings. And for years, businesses like down the block would be like, dude, feathers still come out of our air conditioner every once in a while because they were all connected to the whole block. So it's funny how it's stuck around for a while.
Oh yeah, because it goes down that whole block.
Yeah,
the brick thing going down. They share the same thing. That's so funny. Do you think we'll ever get HF Festival back or a big festival like that where it's like 20? I know they have Bonnaroo and all these big festivals now, but that was like a radio station doing that.
Yeah, I mean, the 90s was it was a period in time that if you were lucky enough to really immerse yourself into it and be a part of it, then you win. But you would go to a show on any given night and know that you could probably get kicked in the head at some point because someone's going to be crowd surfing by you and kick you in the head with a pair of Doc Martens. I don't think that's going to happen again, or at least not anytime soon. Now they're going to have big shows and everything, but those radio stations doing festivals like that, they were all over the country, and it just, radio isn't the same anymore. The whole dynamic changed the business. It's all internet stuff. It's video based. It's single based. It's everything's changed and morphed so much that I don't think it'll ever go back. I feel lucky to be able to have lived through it, and then, we'll see what happens next. I mean, who knows? I mean, maybe it could be crazier at some point. I don't know. I'm sure there's still shows where people go nuts and get kicked in the head, but yeah, that moment in time was pretty special in the music industry. I think I always call it the crest of the wave, and we were right at the crest of the wave. Yep. And then what happens is that wave crashes and it's all white water and you get pulled out by the rip tide. I mean, it's just, just try to surface and catch your breath before you get smashed by another wave.
Being that you grew up, that you guys got to play and have the pinnacle during that time, do you think Jimmie's Chicken Shack would be different musically if you had started today with streaming and Spotify? Do you think you would be more successful, less successful, or do you think your music would still be the same?
I have no idea, because I don't know how to operate all that stuff. And honestly, we came up in a time where, you had to physically go and flyer the clubs. Yep. You had to physically mail out press kits and promo kits and call people on the phone at clubs to get booked. It was a different thing. And I started in a band in '87. We were together for 5 years called 10 Times Big. And I had, lived enough through that scene, doing all originals and doing everything ourselves, that by the time Chicken Shack happened, I knew what to do in that climate and that atmosphere and that ecosystem. It's so vastly different now. I have no idea. I mean, I don't know if it would be easier or if it would be like unsurmountably harder because of the amount of stuff out there. And, I just don't, it's so hard to say. And, I kind of like where we are now, that we're going to make a new record, that we're like doing music not with any motive other than to, like, we're making a concept record, a whole record, in a time where people are like, well, it's only singles market. You do a single at a time kind of thing. We're like, no, we're making a record. So, we're making an old school record.
So basically, if you dwell on the past, the future dries up. Mm-hmm. And that is a quote from one of my favorite people, Bono.
and there's a guy who music never went to his head.
Yeah, right. Dude, I still have their damn album on my iPhone and I cannot get it off.
Dude, I never got that one that was forced on you, but I will say that when I saw Joshua Tree tour at RFK Stadium, I was absolutely blown away and inspired. It blew my mind, and it was part of what became the inception and inspired my first band, 10 Times Big, and just kind of, that blew my mind. They're phenomenal.
I grew up listening to Boy and War.
All that, dude, a boombox on Ocean City Beach, laying there, just blasting it, thinking you were cooler than anybody because you're listening to that rap music. It was so tight.
Unforgettable Fire, then Joshua Tree and Rattle and Hum, and then
after they lost me.
I did like
half of Rattle and Hum. I was and then it was
because you were just
it's like REM with Green. I was like, everything before Green I was down with, and then there's a few songs in Green, but the rest of it was like
This is what we do this all day long.
That's awesome. No, I love you two. I never had a problem with it. Like, yeah, he's a little egotistical, but I mean, live, wow, they're one of the best live bands you're ever going to see.
If you're that good, you're allowed to have an ego, as far as I'm concerned. And if your music and the message comes through, like if you write songs like some of the stuff on Joshua, all you have to do is write one song on Joshua. You could be an asshole all you want.
Yeah. I would love to be in a full-time band that has multiple hits, but I'd still just be happy getting like one, nice single out there that people enjoyed and being able to live off that. I mean, there's so many bands from the 90s that I know are still collecting a paycheck for their one single and making decent royalties off that even today.
Really? Well, good for them.
I mean, you gotta. How many times do you hear a Smash Mouth song in a commercial, or do you hear it somewhere else?
Definitely, there's some songs that are definitely still gonna make some money without it.
I like our podcast, or I think what kind of separates us is we do talk music, obviously, when we get the stuff out there for the bands, but I'm really into like ancient civilizations, history, current events, stuff like that. Do you guys get into much of the alien stuff, and not conspiracies or tin hat stuff, but like the declassification that Congress is doing now and different things like that?
I mean, I don't think there's a chance in hell that there isn't life somewhere else. I'm not really that I'm not totally like occupied by the thought of it, because they're just going to tell us we don't know what's going on, but something's going on. And,
If you want to know, if you want to know my opinion, go back and watch the interview with Bill Maher and Neil what's his name, deGrasse
Tyson DeGrasse, yeah.
Watch that interview. That's how I feel.
Awesome.
Because what he says is exactly right. You know, there's probability, there's possibility, and it's just basically having enough understanding to accept the fact that you don't know.
Yeah.
And that, you know what I mean? That's it. Really.
I mean, honestly, I think that beings are evolved to take over beings. Like, unfortunately, or I mean, look at humanity and what we've done to our world, and look what a bacteria can do to us. And so things try to win out. The way I'm looking at it is, we might not want people to come here or whatever to come here. Yeah, we might not want them to. Then again, they might be, you know, so highly evolved. I mean, so I'll give you my quick theory. If there are aliens that have been like looking and coming to us, they see the same pictures: big eyes, big heads, pale skin, gaunt. I think that we are their ancestors. And this is why they don't mess with us. They evolved from us. And so what happens is we make our planet so uninhabitable that eventually with technology, we figure out how to go into space and inhabit space. And if you live in space, there's no light, so your skin would get lighter, your brain would get larger, there's no gravity, you're not, you get gaunt, your eyes would get bigger in the dark. And as evolution happens, we evolve into these beings that don't need to speak and all this stuff. And so they're coming back trying to figure out, they're archaeologists trying to figure out like why they still get a cold, or why they might still have cancer or something along those lines. I feel like that's my theory. And,
I feel the exact same way. I feel like that they, and I'm sure we've had this conversation, and that's why. But
never, not in the middle of the night in the van coming home from a gig. Go straight.
But yeah, they are going back in time, and it's the human
probing
race.
Us,
and they're going back in time now, and they're able to revisit us, and stay cloaked and stealth. And,
if they mess with us, they'd be messing with their lineage. Right. They can't take us over, because if they took over
they're showing us just enough for the evolution to happen.
They're trying to figure out what moment in time we totally screwed up, and this is it.
I was gonna say, I'm pretty sure we're close to it if it hasn't already happened.
They're totally like, let's go back to this period, because this is right where they screwed everything up, and that's why we are green and have big eyes and large heads.
Well, I love that you guys said that and got into it like that, because I 100% agree with you. That's kind of my theory. Because I feel like if it was some other species or some other thing like that, then there would have already been conflict of some sort.
They conquer. That's what things do.
I just get into it so much because I just can't shake this feeling that humans were meant or are capable of so much more. And I almost feel guilty that I get kind of caught up in the cycle of society, or we have to do things this way, or this is how things are. And that's where a lot of my social anxiety comes from, honestly. It's just like wanting to do more and maybe not having the brain capacity. As humans, we only use about 10% of our brain.
Well, so look at it this way. It's just our moment in time. And just the idea that you think of it enough to want to do more and to do better is good, because you will. But no matter what, we're still constrained to all the prisons and all those things, all those standards and ethos that are part of what we are. It's part of our universe. So it's just this moment in time. We're doing what we're doing. I mean, don't take it too hard. It's all good.
The bottom line is open your mind, but not so wide that your brain falls out.
Yeah.
And just realize that we're just little ants in this moment in time, and in 1,000 years it won't matter specifically, but as a whole it will.
Yeah.
So we're just part of this massive mess of chaos that's kind of cool. So yeah.
Yeah,
fun.
that is true. I probably get into it a little too much sometimes where it's affecting me like that. It's a great way to look at it, though, just our speck of time that you can't worry too much or stress too much over the little things.
Nope.
A couple more things and we'll get you guys out of here. I recently had some work done to the studio, and I don't know if you guys have ever noticed this, but anytime I have a contractor that comes in and works on something, he always points out what the last contractor did wrong or tells me how I wasted my money, and I hate that so much. Have you guys ever had that where you have people, or do you do construction where you're like, eh?
Well, I built this place basically. I mean, I had a small crew of people come in for the first week. There was 2 guys, and they did a hard framing, and then it was very expensive. So I was like, okay, dude, we'll see you guys. And I mean, I just would call whomever to come over. I would hold stuff up with my head and screw it in, like that door right there. And
It's still there.
it's still there. But yeah, that's always you're always going to get somebody like that because they want more business. They want to be the guy who knows better.
Yeah. And the guy, instead of fixing it, he told me how I just got my doors replaced on the shower over there for when guests are over. And I just got it replaced. Like, man, this is so crooked. And I'm like, well, why don't we fix it? Can we fix it? He's like, no, I'm just going to make my part crooked now so it's even. I'm like, well, that doesn't fix the problem.
What's that guy's number? I'm hiring him.
Yeah, right?
I'm just going to go with the flow. Yeah, it's bent a little bit, but if we bend the rest of it, that's how I Jimmie rig everything. Mm-hmm.
Have you guys ever wanted to break a world record or attempt a world record?
We probably have, we just don't know it.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Man,
Something-
can you drive around the country for 2 years with bad tags?
Yeah.
I love when you drive around the country with bad tags. No, I mean, I don't know.
And not know it.
Like maybe longest concert, or would that be like too?
You know what? I want to make records, not break records.
That's damn it! I wish that was a little bit later. We would have just ended it right there. This guy in Nebraska, he just recently set a world record for naked skydiving, and I just gotta imagine the velocity that might hurt.
Yeah.
No interest in that.
You weren't feeling taut that day, and you were a little loose, and you were blang, 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 all the way down to smack, 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 smack.
Okay, wait. So our old guitar player Matt Jones, who was in Cowboy Mouth, and now he's not, but he was on Fail on Q, Red record. He jumped out of an airplane and while doing a guitar solo.
Wow.
Recording a guitar solo, and now he was doing that for the record.
For the record, yeah. He created a record that the guitar solo in air or something.
Yeah.
So
jumping out of an airplane with a guitar, recording a guitar solo, he did it.
And it's on a
Guinness Book of World Records.
But it's also on the Cowboy Mouth record. It made it on the record.
That is crazy.
Yeah, we didn't do that, but our old guitar player did because he's bored and nuts.
Also in strange news, do you remember the movie Arachnophobia from when we were young? It might have come out in like the 80s or 90s.
I know of it. I didn't really watch it, probably.
See, I watched it when I was like 5 or 6, and that's why I've always had this crazy, there's just this hatred for spiders and stuff. But it actually kind of happened in Australia, where they're having these rising floods. So it's causing all these spiders to have to relocate. So literally highways and everywhere towns are covered in spider webs to the point that they can't even drive down the highway.
Yeah, that's when you buy a blowtorch.
Yes, exactly. So the last thing, we'll end on like a music note here. Kings of Leon was the first to release an album as an NFT or using like cryptocurrency type of deals to do that. Is that something you guys would ever be interested in doing?
So I just learned about him a couple months ago. My manager, his name's Richard Burgess. He's the CEO of American Association for Independent Music. He's been my manager forever. He understands them more than I do. We talked about it. And so, yeah, we probably will, because I mean, it's new days for that kind of a platform. And clearly any band that has a huge amount of success and a lot of exposure is going to do well with them. And we had marginal success, and, we might do a little something, but it's just smart to get into something that's new like that, because why not? I mean, it doesn't, like, who knows? That could be the future of some kind of musical trade, bizarre thing. So yeah, we're going to check it out.
I think it's cool just because in a day of streaming and stuff where you're not making $15 an album, or like $9, I guess, or less, whatever, after the company takes all their stuff, but like back in the day. But what's cool about this is that it never loses value. Like it can increase in value. And
Well,
every
and
time,
also-
yeah. So like if you sell your original NFT albums for like, let's say $12 a piece, and you'd probably start at more, like at 30, which is outrageous for an album, but because there's a limited number and there's a set number and you control that. So people would buy it for $30. But then because it's encrypted and it has the algorithms and stuff in it, if that person decides to sell the NFT and they sell it to another Jimmy's Chicken Shack fan for $45, that $15 doesn't go to the fan. That $15 goes to you.
Right, yeah, and that's what's an interesting thing about it, is that there's residual income as the trading happens over a period of time,
Right.
which is, think of the concept of that. I mean, it's phenomenal. I mean, what would happen in 100 years if people are still trading in that? It's just like any work of physical art, in a sense. It's so hard to wrap your head around it, but you think about physical art and Van Gogh, you know, getting $50 for a painting and being broke, but his paintings sell for millions now. And you can only have one painting. Now, you can have a print of it for cheaper, but you can only have one NFT for that one thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it's interesting. I'm open to it. I mean, like I said, it can't hurt.
Yeah, right. Well, if you guys ever do that, I will be the first one to buy it, man. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Send people to our campaign. So we have on Indiegogo, we have a campaign. We're raising funds. We're working with Jim Wirt, producer who produced Bring Your Own Stereo and Mend the Hollow. He also did Science for Incubus. He's done a bunch of bands.
Mm-hmm.
But favorite producer to work with. So we're working with him in Cleveland. We got a Airbnb for 2 weeks and feed ourselves, and then we have to pay for production and manufacturing of things, and then we want to pay for videos and actually promoting the music to try to get it out there. So we're trying to raise a decent amount of money to be able to do this all on our own. It's not a donation-based thing, though. It's a you get something for your money kind of a thing. So it's just a pre-sale, but it's lasting for another I think 18 days as of today. And so yeah, go to Indiegogo and search Jimmy's Chicken Shack making a new record, or and it should pop up.
Awesome. Yeah. I was just about to get to if you guys wanted to promote anything else or had anything else coming up. I will definitely go after we're done here and donate and buy as well. I think it's super cool. And I can't wait for the next show that I get to see you guys at. Do you have any more shows coming up this summer?
State Theater in Havre de Grace
10th.
on July the 10th, Saturday. And then we leave the 16th for the studio. We're there for 2 weeks. We come back and we have a couple shows in one in Pottsville, Pennsylvania. So yeah, we're going to start doing shows pretty much. September is really where we're starting. And in Baltimore, we're doing the Trifecta Food Truck Festival. So that's going to be a blast. So you got to make it for that. And that's going to be the 25th of September. So.
Okay, perfect. Well, I'll definitely see you guys there. And then just on the last note, I remember, I think we might have been right before COVID. This might have been 2019. I think we were in Salt Lake City or somewhere. You guys were playing at the venue like across from us, and I wanted to go see you so bad, but I couldn't because I had to be indoors. But yeah, so I can't wait to see you guys again. And thank you so much for taking time. I know you guys are super busy, so it really means a lot to me.
One more thing.
Yeah.
Tune in on Thursday.
Oh, that's right.
Thursday the 8th. We're doing a
live stream.
live stream.
Awesome.
We have a full band live stream. We'll play some new songs. We might even try to work out stuff live and just see if we work on a tune. But we'll play some, other
some new
old
songs from the
tunes
new
as
record.
well. But yeah. So that's, when is that? The 8th.
The 8th.
The 8th at 8 p.m. on our Facebook
Thursday.
page and on our YouTube page and stuff. So
Okay, great. If you're out there, definitely check them out. July 8th. We got the Trifecta Food Truck Festival coming up as well. And please go to Indiegogo and support. And I don't think people realize how much that really goes into a record and what has to do it. So any support that you can lend the guys, that would be awesome.
yes.
Have a great day. Enjoy the rest of your studio time, and we'll talk soon. Thanks so much.
Play him a second.
Thank you.
Play him a little second of this. real
Can
quick.
you? Would you do a little clip? That would be freaking awesome.
We This is just it's an outro to a song that we demoed, and then it turns into this long instrumental, like hypnotic thing, and we're messing with it today. So there's your taste.
That's super cool. Very different, but I love that's an outro, and it kind of has that funkiness too, that kind of reggae funkiness on it.
Right on, brother. Well, thanks for having us, man.